Welcome everyone to another episode of the Mere Mortals Musing. We are live here on the 27th of July.
Correct.
2025 in the 9 a.m. live, as I mentioned. Come join us sometime, Australian Eastern Standard Time. You have Kyron here on this side.
You've got one on the other side. Yes, I'm just making sure that my audio is coming through in a lovely way here on the podcast. Little
Brilliant
road mixture on the side.
Yep, and so we're back to our musings episodes. So after a period of meanderings, which are a bit more of the lighthearted, we have a general topic, I guess, but we would not particularly investigate as deeply as we do normally. Effective philosophy. So this is things that you can adapt and use in your everyday life. I was trying to explain this to someone last night, the effective philosophy tag. And today we're going to be talking about the fitness culture in Australia.
Correct.
So we hinted at this last week because of our complaining about the lack of gyms overseas. We noticed in our recent travels.
Yep.
So
actually, there was one that I forgot to mention about last week. So I might actually give you this as an example, and then we can kick it off. This will be a bit more of a lighthearted one, but there's been some research that Karen has done, and I've done a little bit as well. So that'll be interesting. So, excuse me, Croatia, no, Montenegro. We were in Montenegro. It was the tail end of our travels in Europe. So like the fifth week, I felt like going to the gym. The individual that led us into the accommodation that we were staying at, she was a very fit-looking lady, and I asked her, "Oh, do you train? Do you go for a run?" She goes, "Oh no, I go to the gym. I go to the local gym." And I went, "Cool." And the way that she spoke about it, demonstrated maybe some passion or some energy for it. And so I went, "Okay, cool. Where is it?" She said, "It's just down by the main road. It's pretty close by here." Awesome. I thought that's not very far away from where we were staying. I'll take a bit of a look. Maybe I'll go in for a session. We walked by it. Maybe that day or the day after. And I walked by it, and it was, this is like exactly what it was. There was a sign for a gym. However, it was in a house. The house was either about to fall down, or they must have just been like building it up or renovating of some kind, but there was no fencing. There was no clear signs that it was being done professionally. So I would probably err on the side that this house was like collapsing, and it was in the basement. So the sign wasn't up high. It was down kind of like by ground level with an arrow pointing down to a darkened, hollow area that there wasn't even a door. It was just like an archway of darkness down there.
the den.
And it said just like gym. Now,
Yeah.
I didn't go. I did not go into this gym. Might have been better for the story if I'd like going in and actually like seeing what it was like.
So did you have all your stuff planned? Like were you in
No.
workout
I was purely just walking by because we were going somewhere else around the area, and I just thought, it's there. Let's just look at it. And by my initial sight, I went, this does not look like a very appealing, even for me that I like maybe like dungeony looking things.
I thought that would be up your
This
alley.
looked like dilapidated, like really terrible, dilapidated type of gym. So that's another example perhaps of what I've seen.
I thought a gym where it's 50-50, you're going to get,
like a rusty nail. Yeah. Like that.
Tetanus.
Look, some of it would excite me. There's got to be some level of cleanliness and equipment that goes along with it. And I didn't think this was going to give me that. So That's another example of why I probably want to talk about how good are the gyms overseas, or not just gyms. What's the fitness culture in general overseas compared to here?
Yeah, for sure. I think a good way of sectioning this off, and I hear Juan coughing, I've also got a slight tickle in my throat as well. So it's winter here in Australia, so you're getting sick everywhere. The probably do the more subjective, fun travel stories, things like that, starting off, and then after the Boostagram Lounge, we can get into perhaps some hard data showing about Australia.
So stick around for the actual fiction or like proper truth and reality. And
Well, no, like
subjective.
there's truth and reality in the subjective stuff as well. So, I mean, I've got plenty of observations from traveling. So what I was doing whilst traveling this last time was I was actively trying to do 2 days a week of handstands. So and one of those days would have a calisthenics component with pull-ups, and so I needed essentially a bar and a set of parallel bars, some P-bars to be able to train on. And then I could do legs and abs just on my own, doing pistol squats and things. So I would keep it into consideration. Probably one of the 4 or 5 factors whilst selecting where I'm going to go, or I already knew where I was going to go, where I was going to stay in a particular city. So I would have a look, calisthenicparks.com, very old and good resource.
Yeah.
I'm talking old as, I reckon this website has not changed since 2003.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
It's old as. It's
Okay.
got it's got this map system that's based on, I don't know, whatever was before Google Maps, but like 5 iterations before that. That's the map system.
Okay. Be prepared.
And you can go in there and it shows you calisthenics parks and some photos that people have manually uploaded and taken of these parks. And so that's a pretty good resource to just kind of check out where roughly a park might be. And I would then take in consideration of cost, reviews of a hotel or hostel, closeness, proximity to a calisthenic park was pretty high up there as well. And then proximity to a train station, or, if I was traveling by train. So all of those would kind of factor in. And I was surprised at being able to find a decent amount of calisthenic parks. But you also have to take into account serendipity of finding one randomly, which you weren't expecting. Which I did find in Florence, for example. Just walking through a random park, and there was a set of bars there. I'm like, I want to say perfect. It wasn't perfect. The calisthenic parks in Australia are better, mostly just because we actually have grounding on it. These places were built on sand pits, on dirt, on grass.
Yeah, right, okay.
We at least have a rubber matting or concrete in most places we're at, which it's a slight improvement. And you might be going like, oh, you're being nitpicky, Karen. But this is where I'm also going, okay, but there was almost 0 gyms in these places. They had a lot of fitness centers in Germany, for example. It was all advertised as a fitness center. So think of, you'd have, remedial massages in there. You'd have tanning saloons. You'd have saunas of various sorts, cold plunges and things like that. And then there would be a gym attached, but a very sterile sort of places, what I would call it.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot of character to these places. It was very whitewashed walls, and everything was too clean. It looks like they hadn't been used. So as I was traveling through, just in general, my friend in Vipin, our friend, he's barely a friend anymore. He won't even catch up. Don't get me started. He was telling me about the options available in London, for example. Crazy expensive. And just a lack of I guess variety as well. Because in Australia, we've got the CrossFit boxes, we've got the cheap and dirty gyms, the Good Lifes and
lifestyle gyms,
lifestyle,
and anytime
things
and
like
jets
that.
and stuff like that.
We've got the fitness centers, I guess, the wellness centers. This could be, I wouldn't call Soak up there, but it's, Total Fusion certainly has it, where it's a large component is the health factor related. You go there for recovery sessions and things like this. You've got the real specific training gyms for gymnastics and things like this. F45s, which what's the one that you and Jazz go to? Fitstops, which are closer to, I don't know how you describe that. It's a gym, but it's also
small group class gym
group classes and things like that. So there's, I feel, a lot more variety in general. And then I've seen most other places, perhaps the US could compete. You might know this a bit better than I do, because I've only spent a little bit, but certainly across Europe recently, I was very disappointed by the options. And Latin America was, I don't recall seeing them. I feel like in Australia you can just walk around and you'll see gyms, whereas I don't really remember seeing.
Yeah, look, this is my subjective take as opposed to really too direct. But I'm sure I reckon a lot of the data, if you look this up, would be able to find it. And you would know this as well. Here in Australia, whether you are, so you might be thinking, okay, well, yes, if you're at a city, at a busy location where there's a lot of people, sure, you're going to find lots of gyms. And yes, here in Australia, and at least expanded. It's not just gyms. Here in Australia, you find the wellness, the Cali parks, swimming pools, areas to, move and play. There's a ton load of them. In fact, here where we're living at the moment, Brisbane, could be Sydney, Melbourne. When you pull up the map and you go gyms around my area, there's just a ton load from the cheap all the way to the expensive. But I guess even in just general Australia, regional centres as well, you will find some of those sort of like simple gyms. You'll find big gyms too. So I'm just thinking something like, where's Stephen at the moment that he travels to? Camden?
No, he's close to Bundaberg.
Bundaberg. So Bundaberg has a gigantic world gym, right? Like a massive world gym out there. And you might think, like, damn, that population is, I don't know, a fraction of what some of the city centres are here in Australia. But they still have that. They still have smaller gyms. Now, yes, the distance to get to those gyms is pretty significant, sometimes like half an hour. But at least for an Australian perspective, living in a regional area, you're driving quite a bit anyways most of the time. So that's not too different for them. But I guess the view is, if I compare that to Europe, where I was in plenty of city centres, not that I ever travel looking for a gym or looking for a fitness space to use. So I'll seldom really train when I'm holidaying, to be frank. But kind of similar to what Vipin must have said about in London, I think other places is there are these more high-class, high-costing areas of space that do have some of the fitness available. But again, that's a fraction of a percentage of people. Most of if you stay at hotels, they seemed like they had some sort of fitness availability. But again, it's minor, like really minor. Again, if I compared it to what I find here in Australia, it's either the same or worse on average, independent of like how much you're paying or what type of luxury it is. It's just either it meets it or it's below. So it's not the equivalent. I saw this through Asia a little bit as well, where it wasn't as bad as Europe. So Taiwan, I remember seeing quite a few gyms and they didn't look too bad. Places like Hong Kong, Japan, I think had a couple of like spaces for movement, for fitness. That did have more gyms. So I feel like just Europe was pretty terrible on all fronts for that. I feel like a lot of Asian countries do have a little bit more of that. Again, I wouldn't compare it to the level Australia has, but it had more so, especially outdoor stuff. I remember in Thailand walking around near either it was like a school or a stadium, and there was a full outdoor gym that used when you see like those videos of the Africans using like barbells with rocks on the side and whatever. Yeah. They had that. They had one of those things, and you could like do barbell curls and pull-ups and military press with things, and they had like pre-loaded up rock weights. I was like, that's cool. So they had stuff like that. South America, I guess I can't comment. You can probably comment.
There's a decent amount in Medellin, for example. I found probably my favorite Cali Park, which was almost exactly what you're describing, but they had actual plates with chains attached to it. So it felt full ghetto. Wow. Because you're clanking these chains around as well.
Yep.
And the chains it was a surprisingly decent system considering Colombia, still has this vibe of, a bit of dangerous, bit of, you can't leave your stuff out, otherwise it'll get stolen, things like this. So I was rather impressed that they had these areas. Now, to do the flip side, and we're talking just about gyms, I want to get onto sports in a moment. The flip side of this is like, you guys are just in the city, you're not giving it the respect that they deserve, perhaps. And I think there's a little bit of a truth to this, because when I would go out of my way to find more sporting areas, so in Medellin, for example, if you go near the, I think it was like the stadium there. It was kind of like stadiums. It had a whole big section. So they would have the stadium for like one of the Medellin football teams, but then they would also have a running track there, the swimming center there. That was the area where they would close it off on Sundays, the roads around it. So you could do like these big loops of running. I did 10Ks just randomly in Medellin. I remember doing that.
Nice.
And very similar thing was in Munich. So I went to the Olympia Park. the whole suburb is called Olympia Park, so it gives you an indication. And yeah, that was where they had just the big areas where you could have the calisthenic park, a small lake, so you could do like rowing or stand-up paddleboarding, a football stadium, a swimming center. So perhaps it's just Australia's a bit more spread out in a lot of cases, so you can have gyms all around the spots, or we've got the Suncorp Stadium in this one section, and then if you come to the Brisbane Olympics 2032, you'll probably notice there's all the things are spread out. There's the Gabba, but it doesn't really have any other things associated with it really nearby.
Well, aren't they building a new stadium anyways?
Maybe, yeah, we'll see. The Chandler Swimming Centre is far off. It's closer to the Wynnum area. So you've got all of these things, but they're just spread out a lot more. Whereas perhaps in other cities where they don't have as much space, or other countries that don't have as much space as us, they tend to just conglomerate everything together. So this is where I didn't do any research of how many gyms are there per, population density, for example. And maybe they're all just in like one area of the city, and that's where everyone goes. If so, extremely inconvenient.
Well, the number that I pulled up, and I guess just bringing some of the statistics that I did look at, was on average across the world, the population percentage who have a gym membership is 19%. But in Australia, it's 32%.
Right. Okay.
That was the number. Right, how absolutely accurate that is, I'm not certain.
And that doesn't necessarily mean people go to them as well. You can just have a membership and you sign up in January, and
Yeah. What I'm interested, because this is something that we don't know, right? Obviously, having lived in Australia for a long time, and yes, we've travelled and experienced some of the varying modes and ways of people live. So I'll give you an example of North America. For sure, there's a strong particular gym culture. If you live in, say, LA, there's the people who go to that sort of Muscle Beach style. There's others obviously on a more high end level, and there's maybe by state or by city, there's that aspect. There would probably be a different aspect if you're living in New York, right? It's probably, again, really high end style of fitness. Perhaps there's like a boxing subset as well. So all of them are going to have the subsets. This is not unique to Australia or unique to other places. It's just, this sort of exists broadly. The one thing, I guess, objectively, I see it as like Australia-wide, we have this culture in the fitness space or the gym space that kind of goes across everywhere. So I'll put it out there right now. I'm not sure if there's other countries or places that have something like this, that it's so pervasive through the society. If there is, tell me, send me a Boostagram comment as we're talking about here, because I'd be interested to know. Like, again, we don't know about that, but I'll give you a couple of examples. One, tradies. There's like a very particular tradie going to the gym, tradie fitness sort of aspect where it's either like super early in the morning or super late at night. And you can see it. You can see the congregation of, I tend to see the really early morning people where it's, the tradies who come in, get in the gym session before going to work, or alternatively, I've seen it sometimes in the evening where they'll come in really late.
I see them knocking off after work and coming in high vis.
Yeah,
and
so stuff like
changing.
That. So that's like, and that's across Australia, right? And that's not as specific to any particular city or location. That's what you'll tend to see. Another one, I guess, that I see is like that after school youth. I don't know if across the world this is a general thing that also occurs, but for the large part, again, usually the males, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, maybe all the way to 20, they'll come in their group after school or after, early knockoff or something like that, and they're all in there. And it's between, 4 p.m. all the way through to 10 p.m. And there's a reason why the gym gets really busy at around those times. Obviously, people are knocking off from work and whatever, but it's very common to see big group of guys coming in, getting in the training, and it's usually big group of guys. I've never seen a big group of girls come in for a training session.
No, I'll see 2 or 3. I'll see many groups of 2 or 3. Yeah, that's pretty common.
No, but again, across Australia, like
4 or 5 guys.
I participated in that. I remember going after school or after uni. Would go in there with a group of like islanders and would go in there and train, and it was hours of training. So like I was part of it. I've seen it before, so that's another thing. Then again, this is probably This is probably not unique as much, but it's like, again, the condensation of you've got your powerlifters and you see them all over in different places, or you have the specific niches for a powerlifter or like a CrossFit box and all that. I think that's general across the world. You'll be able to find all those different domains. I would probably say the fact that here in Australia, in general, we are more, on average, who knows if this is correct, but on average for a country, we're probably the closest on average to a beach than most other places in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some out there like that you are on average closer, but there's just so much beach and so much people here that we do tend to have a beach, summer loving, suns out, guns out type of mentality. I have heard that exact saying from someone from California, though, suns out, guns out, so it's not unique. But I would say on average, there's a lot more individuals across Australia, or just on average, that have this culture of, summer's coming, we got to be ready, might go down to the beach, it's going to be warm, going to have your shirt off. So I think that's another thing that I'm not certain that's another country has in its totality. Like, I wouldn't say the US has that mentality, because there's probably people in Minnesota that don't think that in comparison to California or Florida. But here in Australia, I reckon you'd find that type of mentality in any state. Even down to Tasmania, I reckon you'd find something like that. Weird places that have fantastic gyms. There are, someone went down to Tassie and they went to go train down there. I'll just try to find a gym. And it was it wasn't middle of winter. It was like coming into winter. And they found this huge gym in the middle of basically like nowhere. It was on the outskirts, I believe, of Launceston. And it was just like amazing with every single thing you'd probably like think or need. That seems to pop up in all states as well that I can think of. Okay, sure, you might not see it in just like random regional locations here in Australia, but there does weirdly seem to be just like amazing, great gyms in all locations. And again, if I had to compare that to other places in the world, more specifically North America, I've seen that in some states and some places, but not all over the place. So I think that's another one that's like unique. It's that culture where you'll tend to find like a really great gym for whatever you need in basically any location without fail, unless it's like a really remote location.
Yeah. When that connects with the sporting culture in general, I think. And it's kind of funny because I'd say we have a strong sporting culture, yet it's not fanatical. So for example, the football games and things like this, sure, you get people who are very passionate, but they're not riding flair type passions. And if they are, they're probably more like the Greek imports and things like that. Like that's like I remember seeing I think it was like a Sydney Wanderers game, so it's A-League and the soccer. Those wondering, because I'll talk about our footballs in a second. And yeah, you see like the fan section, and that was where they smuggled in some flares and stuff like that. And it was just all Greeks. It was just all Greeks who were doing that. So the thing is, so listing off, I think I looked this up a few years ago, so it might be slightly out of date, but most popular sports in Australia based on attendance at games / viewership on TV would be Australian Football League, Rugby League, I believe cricket or rugby union are in 3rd and 4th. And then I think Australian soccer football is probably in about 5th place, something like that. I know the youth participation in soccer is pretty strong, but then it tends to fan out after that. And so there's 5 sports there. The 4 of them almost completely useless and not played anywhere else in the world, essentially, which is similar to, I guess, when you think of the United States, where they've got their basketball, their things like lacrosse, NFL. They're very particular to their country, and it's not. You're not playing NFL in the Olympics, for example. You're not playing Australian Football League, AFL, in the Olympics. So you've got these kind of like niche sports, which are the most popular, but then the general population still seems to be very sporty. And I think the beach culture does make a difference. There's an anecdotal one. I might have talked about this before. me and my family on Christmas, we used to go to the Gold Coast in the mornings, and we'd kind of go to the beach, get McDonald's for breakfast. Yeah, it was like random ass tradition. I don't know how we did that. And I remember just going one Christmas a couple of years ago and just being astounded. It was probably 7, 8 a.m., something like that. It is working. So much just random people running, swimming, cycling on Christmas Day very early and getting after it. They weren't just going for a light jog or something. No, they were pounding the pavement, hitting PBs, getting angry because people were getting in their way, sort of deal. Just absolutely like beelining it. And I was just going, like, what are you doing on Christmas Day? This is crazy. And I think that's just kind of the epitome of a lot of the Australian sporting culture. It's a participatory one as well. I don't think maybe people. Well, no, actually, I was going to say we don't live through our sports as much as other people do. Don't. But that being said, I was on a plane coming my last plane trip from Sydney to Brisbane after coming home. And I was next to two random people who'd obviously just met, this guy and the girl. Early 40s, I'd say, both of them, more or less. And they talked about rugby league for the whole plane ride, 2 hours straight. And yeah, it was just really random stuff as well. Like, Cameron Haynes, like, when we lost him, like, he's just such a motivator for the boys, and they're just talking about psychology of some random guy and how
that's not dissimilar to how they talk about it in NFL or Major League baseball or basketball. It'd be the same thing. I think that's very same.
These two people were living through these people 100%. But that's that's perhaps one of the downsides of having a sporting culture as well, is that you live through your teams, and these two people were rather unfit. So yeah, that's perhaps a downside of it as well. And this is probably I remember when I was a kid, so like early teen years, there was a statistic that Australia was the most obese country in the world. We'd overtaken America. And I remember that. And I was going like, surely that can't be right. Like, are we that fat? Are we that crazy? And because when I look around, I don't really see many severely obese people, other than one, because his BMI is technically in the obese category, I believe.
Now, that's true, actually. That is true. Correct. Sorry, I was actually going to just slam Manshield, actually, at that point. But no, correct. My BMI would put me at obese levels.
So I think perhaps when you get to the older, so I would have said like Australian youths up until 40, the younger generations are fit, play a lot of sports and things like that. Probably we don't have the European lifestyle after that, which is you walk around a lot. We don't walk that much because Australia is so big, everyone has cars. So you're not walking everywhere. There is the beer sort of aspect where we drink a lot. So probably when you're getting into your later years, I've noticed this with my dad. He drinks a lot more now than he used to be. And he used to play a lot of tennis, so he was always very slim. I'd call him fit, not strong. He never went to the gym or anything, but he was fit. Now that he's gotten older, can't play tennis, even his golf is suffering, so he's not walking that much with golf, and he's got a cart, so he uses that a lot of time. He's got a bit of a belly. He's got a bit of a pouch on him.
Pop it down.
It's not looking so good.
Oh, no.
And so I think this is probably where you'd maybe say, this is where that statistic came from, where once you're over 50, over 60, we perhaps let ourselves go a lot. And that might be part of the culture of not having the lighter foods, of not having the siestas and the walking around a lot like a lot of the Europeans do. And perhaps our foods are heavier. They're good if you are very exercise heavy in your youth, and then maybe your body's a bit broken from doing that. And I know quite a few people who are already broken in their 30s. And that's, I think, an indication that perhaps the fitness culture is a bit of a detriment, in that it's very good when you're young, you're fit, you're healthy. Maybe you take it a little bit too far, and then when you get into your older years, you just stuff it. Let it go.
Actually, here's a question for you. So, I would say on a broad scale, the culture of fitness or gyms or just sport in general in Australia, it kind of prevails for me. I really enjoyed, on an average, if you had to take the average of all, because I can't say to a specific of the US, it's like if you take the whole US as a whole, if you take all of Australia as a whole, I take the average of Australia as a whole from a fitness culture perspective. I needed to, and being like, subjectively, I really like it for that, for whatever reasons. But of all the places that you've experienced, or all the go specific, like fitness or sporting culture or gym culture or whatever culture, which one or what circumstance made you go like, oh wow, that was like the best I've ever experienced of that type, whatever that type looks like?
Overseas or
overseas, here, if it's here. So I can give you an example while you think about it. So my example is the absolute best I've ever seen something like gym culture has been in the USA. And I'll give you two examples. One was in LA, no, not LA, sorry, Vegas. I stayed in Vegas in 2014. I believe it's 2014. And the accommodation that we were staying at was the Luxor Hotel. Yes. The Luxor Hotel already is a pretty old kind of gym. Kind of old hotel. But that one, even then, had a really gigantic gym, like a really huge gym that would have been even beyond gyms that you see around here. And it was just free. Like, it was part of the hotel. There were other hotels that had even better gyms that were there. There is, in Las Vegas specifically, there's a bodybuilder specific type gyms, not just one, there's multiple of them. And there's others kind of dotted around the USA, which I would say from a gym culture is like, wow, this is, gigantic gyms with the best sort of equipment, the right energy and vibe to them as well. Because one of the examples I was going to say that there are some in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates that are like the O2 gyms that are humongous and massive. But I don't know, at least from videos, it doesn't seem like it's got the energy that you'd want. But I've been to a lot of the USA that are like, wow, the energy is amazing. You want to train there. There's lots of either known people or people who've gone through those spaces that make you be like, oh yeah, this is really cool. So I've never come across a gym in Australia that's the equivalent to that. If you're going all the way to the Lux gyms, all the way down to your cheap ass gyms, nothing's really come close to that. So I was like, okay, that's for me would be like the epitome of what I've seen. And that's, a year ago or something, I had parts like, oh, that would be such a cool idea to try to implement. The other reason I would also say that is Chris Williamson, when he came to Brizzy last year, I got into a conversation with him and he was asking me, what's a cool bodybuilding, like type of gym like they have over in the USA? And I kind of came to the realization there wasn't actually one in Brisbane. Like there isn't anything in Brisbane that would have been the equivalent. The only one that really I could think about was kind of, again, in the outskirts. It'd be like 40-minute gym drive. He ended up going to Total Fusion for a workout. And again, that's not that exact sort of like bodybuilding.
So that's a total influencer gym.
Yeah. So
I'm an influencer, by the way.
So, there's a clear example of probably someone who's been to a whole load of places, and I couldn't come up with a really good suggestion of a place to go here in Brisbane where I love and I do like to train around here, but there wasn't an equivalent to kind of say like, oh yeah, you should go to that. Whereas I think in the States, in particular areas, you can really be like, oh, go to this one. Like that's freaking amazing. And that one you do it. You've got like the history, the energy, the good equipment, the right people, all of that. But it's only in certain areas. If you average it across the US, I think that wouldn't be the case at all.
Sure. What comes to mind for me was just the couple instances in Colombia I saw of these real mass organized events where it was kind of a free-for-all. And so this is where I'm talking about. They'd close the roads around the stadium. I believe in Bogota on select days, they'll actually close the a highway that leads to the airport for sections. So like really screws you up if you're trying to catch a plane or something, because you need to take like a diverted route. And that's like a real unique experience where you've got this whole massive, just think 6-lane roads free to yourself. So there's people skateboarding, there's people running, there's people like rollerblading, you know, out with their prams, pushing kids along. That's a real atmosphere. I really enjoy that. It's not particularly a sporting event, but everyone's doing fitness-related activities. And it's a very short, unique thing you can do on a weekend. I think that's really cool, and I really enjoyed that. Once again, that's a very unique place because they could block these roads around a stadium and it's not affecting anyone who lives there because sure, maybe if you're on the other side of it, but stuff those people, who cares? So that's probably what comes to mind for me the most. The other thing I guess I noticed whilst traveling Europe though was, so I saw the Women's FA Cup semi-final the final in London for the random day that I was there. I got invited a day before it happened because Nick, actually, Molster from Fountain, had a spare ticket. Shout out to Fountain. Thank you.
Very nice.
Providing tickets. That's good V for V right there. When I was in Germany, the Bundesliga last game, I think, happened just the week before, and same with the EPL was happening just as I was there. Then in Switzerland, just before I left, they had the Euro finals for the women. In Germany, they had the Euro finals for men, and so I was just bombarded with a big event, big sporting events, and this was just the football, let alone
everything
other
else
things.
was going on.
Yeah, and so that was certainly had a bit more of a feel of, oh man, there's these big events going on, and for me, it's like, wow, it's like the Euro finals, like this international event happening, and I could go watch these things if I so desired. Whereas that Australia's just so far, you don't get those big things where it's 30 different countries all competing for something. And we'll have the Olympics. We'll have the Olympics. That'll be big in 2032. But aside from that, if you want a big sporting event, you probably need to go to Asia to witness, the Asian, the Asian Cup, for example, in football. You need to go elsewhere. So that's probably what springs to mind, is just because we're so far from things, you're not going to get these real big multi kind of cultural events.
Yeah, happening here. True, that's right. Yeah, well, we are a little island off to the side of the world.
Little island.
I think we jump into the Boostagram Lounge. Something that we want to get into some absolute stats. I was going to say, just a quick aside, as I pulled this up, there was a guy that I used to work with at Hastings Steering, and he was a referee in the soccer world.
Yeah.
He refereed the World Cup. Was it the PSG game?
Oh,
he was the referee for that World Cup.
The one versus, that's not World Cup.
Was it the
Champions League final?
No, it's not the Champions League final. What was
sorry, the Club World Cup.
The Club World Cup. Yeah, he refereed the final of the Club World Cup.
Oh, cool.
I was like, wow, very cool.
Nice. Was he the main guy, or was he one of the sides?
I can't remember if he was the main or the side, but he's a very cool dude. Regardless. So,
yeah, I actually met someone who works with you at, I think, Hastings Steering of Virgin not so long ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
I was like, oh yeah, I remember that.
All right, let's go into the Boostagram Lounge. And again, Boostagram Lounge is our chance to call out people who've been supporting us and sending us through some Boostagrams. Boostagrams is an ability to send some fractional Bitcoin in the form of Satoshi with a message attached if you so choose to as well. We don't call out the streams that come through.
Although we do see them.
So thank you very much.
Late bloomer actor and
we like to call out these Boostagrams to come through. So one I've got here is from Cole, Mr. McCormick. Sounds like Karen will be making an annual Florence trip. I don't think so.
I don't think
that's
so
1,111 sats using Fountain. Nope. There's a truckload of, I guess, streams that have come through there from the late bloomer actor on the same actual podcast. So big streams as well, so I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I don't know, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. No, Cole, I will not be doing an annual Florence trip. That's not on the cards.
No.
But I would recommend to go there for 2 days, 2 or 3 days, if you're
Just to visit it, explore it, see it, experience it.
See David if you want. And I didn't even go out to see David. I'm a bad traveler.
Do you reckon it would have changed anything about it though?
No, absolutely zero. No.
Yeah.
There's literally a replica in the main town square, so you can go see that. So I saw the replica.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Yeah, I guess I would give you enough, honestly. Unless you were a real aficionado for that time period or the original. Or
I would have spent a lot of time in crowds and lines. I've seen it.
Definitely not Karen's favorite thing to do.
No way.
All right, let's get into the second half of this.
Yeah,
I think this
sounds good. And
more details.
I do see you there, Lucas, as well, joining the chat. We'll address that at the end. I did. If you're a part of our Discord, you would see some of these things posted early, so you could get a little sneak peek of what's to come. I was using some AI this week, and I was using it to actually find out some sporting accomplishments of nations across the world. How does Australia go sporting wise? So in particular in the Olympics. So I've got two charts here. One was for the Olympic medals per capita. So this was both the winter and summer. And then I did one for just the summer because we're probably going to do a little bit better with that one.
Yep.
Is what you would think. So did you look at these at all?
I did.
Okay, so out of all the teams, all the countries in the world, Australia ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th in the world in terms of total medals per capita. And that we're ranking in there.
That's the combined winter.
That's the
summer.
combined.
Yep.
And that's at 23.8 per million. We are very far off the top ones, which are Norway, Finland, Sweden, which are at like 185, 65. So those countries, perhaps you'd be saying like, oh, wow, they're probably the more sporting. They've got a bigger fitness culture and things like this.
However,
which it still ranks well for them across doing just summer as well. That's what really surprised me. So Hungary, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Switzerland were still up there, and then we ranked in 7th, I believe. So
we went a little bit better.
They've got East Germany in here as well, so and then Germany is further down, so yeah, I guess East German, relic from the past sort of deal. So Australia does pretty well. Of this, we are the kind of country with the highest population, 26 million. All the ones above us are at 9, 5, 10, 17, things like that. And then by and large, the people below us are larger. So Great Britain, France, Italy, Canada, United States, etc., etc. So we're kind of in this sweet spot of being I'm just going to say semi-large country. I always felt Australia was pretty small with 26 million, but now that I think about it, there's a lot of European countries with
4 million, 3 million.
Yeah, exactly. That, I think we do pretty well. 7th in the world, 6th in the world, or 7th or 8th in the world in terms of Olympic medals across I
was going to say something.
The various ones.
I wonder if that number, like that, so the ratio number, is skewed in how much perhaps those countries, like you mentioned, Norway, Sweden, if they support the potential excellence at a particular sport, so specifically here, the Olympics, if they support them better than other countries, and that's what allows them to become at a higher ratio. So what I mean by that is, in Australia, if you're a swimmer and you're like the top swimmer, you make some good money. But you make your good money from advertising and sponsorships. That's how you make your good money.
Sure.
If you want to be a professional swimmer, like a world champion swimmer, but you're the 3rd and the 4th, you get paid like pittance. Like you're barely living doing that. And Australia is known for being, I guess, a good swimming country. Like if you just specifically went down to the swimming one, I reckon we'd be in the top 3 of, percentages in terms of that. But is it because we just have such an abundance and volume of people who swim, who then become really good, and so you have more people at the very tippy top? When I see some of those sort of things, I go, well, in general terms, at least for swimming, I know this, Australia does put some support for people who are going up in terms of like the excellence levels and going to world class, but it's very little. It's actually really, really little. I do wonder if places like Norway or those other countries support those individuals. Maybe there's lesser, let's just say in Australia, there's 1,000 people who could become world level, and there they have 100 or 50, but those 50 can be better supported financially to become world champions or to become Olympians or win a gold medal versus what we here in Australia do, purely either by the numbers or just what we invest into that sort of thing. So I wonder if that skews what you would say is, a true fitness culture or like sporting culture versus just what we decide to put money behind.
Yeah, the Olympics are a weird one because there is a prestige, a status to it. It's a form of soft power almost. The United States and Canada, United States and China, when they compete, it's who's going to win the most medals out of the two of them, who's going to get the most gold medals, etc. And viewing that as almost a proxy war.
What would be fun? So now that you're saying that, yeah, and I agree. It's kind of seen as like who wins who's got the power in that domain and in other domains. Maybe what we need is like the Olympics, but instead of just getting like your best swimmer, you go, no, everyone in your country has to swim 100 meters, and we'll take the average of that score and we'll compare it to all other countries, and then that's how we know the winning country, right? So I feel like that would be better if you did that. I think Australia would be higher up in a lot of other sporting domains, and that's what would tell you truthfully how we stack up with other countries.
Good way to weed out all the weak people.
That's correct. If you can't swim, you don't even get there. Yeah. But imagine
if you strengthening our gene pool at the same
time. If you're like imagine if they went like, okay, if you're 16 years old to 55 years old, kind of like mandatory military service. Mandatory every year, you have to run a 100-meter race as fast as you can.
You have to do every event at the Olympics.
Yeah, every single event. You have to do a decathlon. Everyone has to do a decathlon, and we'll just get the average, and that will compare everyone across all other countries. I think that's the only way to do it.
That seems the most logical and fair way.
Yeah. It probably would be very cheap. I don't think this would cost much at all to do for all the countries. So
not at all. It'd be funny because imagine it. So obviously a tremendous expense to take everyone out and logistics and planning all of this. But what would you save in healthcare costs? What would you save in,
There was a stat. So there was a stat.
Loneliness, depression, because everyone would probably start training for this a little bit. So
let me get my
could
stats.
Actually be beneficial.
Let me get my numbers correct, because I actually listened to this in a very recent podcast, and I wasn't entirely certain if this was exactly correct. But I'm going to throw the number out first. You can think about it, and then I'll try and see if I can validate it. But I believe so. It was a conversation with David Sinclair. Do you know David Sinclair?
Aussie guy,
anti-aging, longevity scientist type of guy. He was having a chat with Peter Diamandis on the Moonshot podcast. Shout out to that podcast, man. I'm loving it. I'm just like absolutely consuming the shit out of it. Really good podcast. But they were talking about how there was a study done or some sort of science done, and I believe it was specific to the US. And if you extended life by 1 year, I think it was a $38 trillion benefit to like their economy. And I was like, what the hell? That seems like so ridiculously huge. But if that was true, if those numbers actually equated to something like that, then it was like, so the example that they were trying to say is, forget trying to save money by cutting costs down on this, cutting costs down on that. Again, just maximize trying to get your people as healthy as possible, free gym memberships, whatever. And if that turns out to be true, well, then you're making way more money than you'd actually need just by that pure one, like that increase.
Yeah, there's a lot of financial trickery. I want to do an episode on financial shenanigans again, in terms of some broad scale things. So, for example, I was trying to explain to my dad how these Bitcoin treasury companies and ETH treasury companies are working, and the amount of times I've heard infinite money glitch over the last couple of weeks has been absurd.
Infinity money glitch.
So I would like to do that. But the thing with that is, sure, you might save a bunch of money, but how much more are you now paying in pensions per year or superannuation here in Australia? Because that everyone's living that extra year longer. That's got to be up in the trillions as well. So there's the way they calculate these things, I'm very skeptical of when it comes to putting numbers.
To give you a bit some more facts, and I got the number correct. God damn, that's amazing. Well done, one. Pat on the back for one. It was
So humble.
one prominent study from Enberth and economists Scott, Mulligan, and Phillipson. They estimate that curing aging or adding just one healthy year of life expectancy would be worth around $37 to $38 trillion to the US economy alone, and that's around reduced healthcare costs, increased productivity, and fewer years of disability or frailty. So I guess, like that conversation, I guess, if you, I guess we're getting slightly sideways, but, talking about a fitness culture, a health culture, if it indeed has that much of a positive benefit to just the economy in general, it makes me think like, damn, if we're considered like a good, positive, healthy fitness high up there in comparison to the world, if we like leaned into it more, if we had politicians who are like, you know what, everybody, free gym memberships, Cali parks for all locations, whatever you want it from a health perspective, and if it does indeed give you that positive side on the economy, like that seems like a no-brainer. But I think, the devil's in the detail in that potentially there'd be other changes, circumstances, maybe something else would occur that you wouldn't actually see that benefit trickle down through to the economy itself.
I'm kind of skeptical on people throw out big numbers.
It does seem a bit extreme. I can imagine where they get to in that if you do have a more healthy society, you can work through like, well, that means that this person would be paid less this because there's no disability for that and whatever else. But like all systems, very complex, things don't just equate to that way.
I vaguely recall us 3 or 4 years ago talking on a similar topic to this, and you were suggesting there should be an enforced standard of
minimum levels of like fitness
per week or something like this. I remember being quite against it, and I still would be. But that's along those similar lines.
Just because I did a little podcast that will come out, like my first high signal podcast, and it was about calm minds and hyper objects. Have you heard of hyper objects before?
No, I haven't heard high signal podcast either. What does that mean?
Well, signal versus noise. Signal versus noise.
Is this a new podcast you're doing or something?
Same in the conversation, like same as the mere mortal. So all I'm saying is the same like effective philosophy type of conversations that I'm doing, but it's a more less noise, less like not a conversation, but we call it mere mortals conversations. So it's part of the mere mortals conversation.
A monologue is a monologue conversation. Is that what you're?
Well, it's a conversation with the mere mortalites. But hyper objects is something I like just stumbled upon. It was some concept by a philosopher, Timothy. It's a hyper object is an entity so massive or distributed that it exceeds our ability to fully perceive or comprehend it. And the example that he was giving was like the internet or economy or climate change, things like that. And so what I was talking about in that particular podcast is like, man, the biggest hyper object itself is just life. Is in like, well, life is just the biggest hyper object because there's so many things that would make it incomprehensible. And I think it applies to this where the conversation of fitness and health, yes, it will be, obviously it would promote good things and there would be some savings if you directly calculate it that way. But because life is such a hyper object and everything that we exist in, it's just too complex. There's no way that it would actually equate to that at all. Even in the theoretical realm of saying like this and calculating it out, it would just be, money would just get diffused elsewhere, picked up elsewhere, spent elsewhere. You just wouldn't realize that potential at all. No way. No chance.
Yeah. So once again, on our Discord, jump in. There's a couple of maps we created. I'll probably show this on the chapter images. And I've got the countries by obesity rate, and it's a map that shows up. Red is, yellow is bad, orange, red, and then it goes into like purple and blue and black. And if you're in black, then you've got 0% obesity. And I'm looking on the map here, and it looks like North Korea is the fittest country in the world.
Well done.
The 0%.
We must all follow North Korea's standards.
I believe that's North Korea that I'm looking at here. But if you go,
it's probably just a lack of data than it is anything else.
Yeah, it is. It would be. And the thing with this is like you could look at this and you're like, all right, US bad. I think that's Egypt over here bad. Maybe UAE. My geography is kind of bad. Is that Egypt there? Near the Suez Canal, I think that is. You're looking just in general, Europe's in the red, a lot of Latin America, apart from, I believe that one's Suriname, perhaps, or French Guiana.
French Guiana.
Like there's one random little tiny sliver in South America.
It's a French colony.
Which is either Suriname, French Guinea, or Guyana, one of the three. Australia, where like at, the 30%-ish obesity rate. And you're looking at all of this and you're going like, wow, Africa, they're in the purples. They're around like the 10%. They must be a fit culture. They must be so healthy. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
The reason is probably, there's still a lot of extreme poverty there and extreme famine. And so just because you're not a fat country doesn't mean you're a fit country either, I think. So looking at these kind of maps and stuff, and a lot of China and Asia, and, that's where you'd maybe be going like, oh, perhaps, like I still think there's probably a lot of Asian countries where it's the poverty is the lack of obesity. But this is where it's so hard to quantify a lot of these things. Yep. Just like we were saying with the BMI. One is dragging Australia's average.
I'm dragging it down.
Well, you're dragging our obesity
honestly,
rates up.
All gym goers who are like really muscular are dragging the numbers down, basically.
Yeah, and making it appear worse than it actually is. But obviously, one's not obese, so the metrics and how you're measuring things is a pretty critical, important part of all of this. And so you can have people who do things like strongmen. They're probably in the obese category as well. Are they unfit? I wouldn't say that. They've certainly got a lot of body fat. Is it the healthiest? Once again, fitness and health is a bit of a different thing, alluding to the title that I created for this, which was like, Australia's fitness culture. But are we like a healthy culture? Is that necessarily mean you're healthy? I don't think those two things necessarily equate.
No,
you can have a fit culture, but you can, and this isn't even talking about the mental side of things, which
this is pure physical. You
can get all sorts of weird stuff, but yeah, you could have a fit culture, but if your culture like emphasizes hyperachievement in let's say something extreme, really extreme, ultra marathons, ultra running, you're going to have a whole bunch of broken people. Sure, they'll be fit in some sort of respect, but they also could be, giving themselves rhabdo and all sorts of shit like that on a recurring basis.
Correct.
So there's a difference between the two. To finish up, Juan, I see you posted something here about some metrics. What
that was the number that I was talking about earlier, which was kind of like the 19%
gym membership,
32% gym membership, which is the only bit that I kind of found interesting in that.
Average workouts per week, 1.9 to 2.5 and 2.5 to 3.2. What's the difference between those two numbers? Is that
the higher number there was Australia versus the
world
on average.
Gotcha.
So the numbers, at least on the gym usage, was it did seem like there was more Australians who participated in the gym culture, or at least bought a gym membership, than the rest of the world on average. However, that's like the rest of the world on average. So I think if you compared it to more specific, like I should have asked it but what's the best? If you looked at maybe, Norway might have come up, or Switzerland or Finland. So that might have been like an interesting viewpoint to see like, well, what's the best actually look like? I guess in general, from the numbers for Australia, are we a fit country? I would say, yeah. If you look at all models, we're in the top rankings of Olympics or going to the gym and stuff like that.
I think even just looking around, I feel there's just not a huge amount of ridiculously overweight people, because when you are by the beach, you are going for the beach body. That being said, this is what I noticed in Italy in particular. Most people there were thin, but they weren't fit, if you get what I mean. So I felt like I was one of the bigger dudes walking around at any given point. Like, got some guns on me.
Yep.
Got some pecs popping.
He's big.
He's a big boy. But I didn't see any people there where I'm like, wow, or notice in general, like, oh, wow, that person's unfit. That person's fat. That person's this or that. So the lifestyle and health, once again, I'd say Australia's fit, but are we necessarily healthy? up for debate.
Yeah. And then I'll offer a business idea for all of those companies out there who have sensors and whatnot. This would be I'm going to predict 5 years from now, 7 years from now, this will exist. Someone will have done it, but it'll be a big money maker, which if any of the health sensors out there, or maybe something new that comes along that does it, if they were able to predict a little bit more accurately, but using a whole host of figures and data coming from the human to give a proper health rating, so not just fitness rating, which you can do that in various ways of like, well, this is your heart rate and this is your HRV and this is your VO2 max. All of those are figures for fitness that can translate to health. But if you had a one core health metric that brings in all these various things that are equated right away,
handstand hold, max handstand hold. That's what I think it should be.
You partner it in with insurance companies and government. There's going to be money galore throwing down that path. There'll be so much money, and I think it'll be really good. That is the closer I can see when you have like a true articulation of, what's the fit and healthiest country. If you had a measure like that, and again, what goes into that measurement, then you could see for like everyone what that looks like. That would be really cool. 2, that would be a big money maker, but there would be a lot of work in that. But until we see something like that, I don't think you could definitively say, Australia is the fittest and healthiest country until we all do a 100-meter run race, mandatory right now. Right now, everybody get out. After you finish listening to this, go run 100 meters, see what your time is, and then we'll just collate it on an average from all the places around the world.
Use your Strava.
Yeah. Send me your Strava details of your 100 meters, like tops or whatever. We'll do some average numbers. So that's the only way. Good. Brilliant. Good. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining in for this conversation. And again, musings today, a little bit more detailed on a specific topic, which of course today was around fitness and health and what we think about the Australian subjectivity and some of the data as well.
Next week, it sounded like you wanted to talk about Moloch.
Yeah, Moloch. I'll leave it there. We're like, if you want to hear about it, and I'll leave you into that cluelessness of what the hell that is.
Join our Discord. And
I'll put some of the research or thought processes that I want to talk about on the Discord. So jump in there if you want to see that and even ask them questions and stuff like that. But I'll put it in there and then we'll have that conversation. Next week
I think that's a good way going forward of just.
It's easy for us like to just see what we want to talk about and then anyone else.
And that way we can link up our topics better. I think that's a good way of doing it. I do see some live comments from Patricia saying hello. She was the number one fan, and then Lucas coming in with 2 messages saying, "Yo, boy, you're magnificent, Karen." Oh, thanks, Lucas. You're magnificent. Mine's magnificent as well. Give him some props. Come join us live 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday, and join in. It's good fun.
Correct. All right, immortalize, be well wherever you are in the world. One out.
Karen out.
Good. Good.